Thank you guys all for joining. As you guys know, today's webinar is Giving Tuesday Now, 4 ways to maximize your May 5th fundraising campaign. After the advent of Giving Tuesday Now, really recently by Giving Tuesday, we thought it would be a great opportunity to share a lot of our resources, tactics, strategies with a lot of nonprofits trying to fundraise on the day, given success we've seen with fundraising campaigns recently during the COVID crisis and also just in past Giving Tuesdays. So your presenters will be Jason Perkins and Nico Emmer from Community Boost, and we're looking forward to getting into this. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. If you guys have any questions, we really encourage all the questions you have, just shoot them in the chat window, and then we'll answer them all at the end of the session in the Q&A. And then feel free to connect with us on social media. We're on all channels, just at Community Boost, and then on Twitter as well. And I'll go ahead and introduce you guys to your hosts, Nico and Jason.
Hey everybody, my name is Nico. I'm a consultant here at Community Boost. My day-to-day looks like managing the client strategy and communication for just about 24 different nonprofit partners. I am also our area of practice manager for kind of what I would call the bottom half of the funnel. That's conversion design, on-site conversion rate optimization, email, that sort of thing. So super excited to be presenting here, super excited to be sharing some of this knowledge that we've seen from Giving Tuesday with you guys. I'm just really excited to get into it.
I'm Jason Perkins. I'm an account executive here at Community Boost. So I come from the nonprofit world, sort of front lines as far as fundraising goes. I was a senior campaign manager for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's team and training program. Also worked alongside nonprofits and technology for around the last 7 years. So very excited to talk about this new opportunity and some of the highlights around the planning for events like this and what we can do for this coming May. So very excited. Thanks, everybody. So this is our small but mighty team here at Community Boost Consulting. So in 2019, had the opportunity to directly serve 186 nonprofit organizations, including organizations like the Trevor Project, Humane Societies, Statue of Liberty Foundation, Save the Children, and many others. Very excited to announce that we crossed the 7.5 million online revenue generated for those nonprofits in 2019, using the types of strategies that we're going to go over here today for individual digital campaigns, as well as longer term strategies involving everything from the Google Ad grants to Facebook to email, all of those opportunities that organizations have. So really excited to introduce you to us if this is your first time engaging with our webinars, and we'll go from here. Some of the key takeaways that we'd love for you guys to walk away from this webinar with is understanding what Giving Tuesday Now is. We saw some comments in the chat already that people have had some successful Giving Tuesdays. So how do we take advantage, even though this is a quick turnaround time, and give you guys a solid view of what this new opportunity is? Going over some of those strategies that we used successfully in past Giving Tuesdays and how they can be adapted and continued or Giving Tuesday Now. Obviously, we want to touch on some of our digital marketing best practices. So in multi-channel fundraising leading up to May 5th, but also overall with campaigns that people have going on in the digital world, especially at this time of heightened engagement online. And then how to apply our 4 strategies to maximize the May 5th fundraising campaign to generate as many donations as possible on this day. And then finally, something that we want to offer to not just everyone here, but if you know any other organizations, we work, as I said, with over 189 organizations, and we know that though they may share similar sectors, each one is unique in the campaigns they're doing, the community impact that they have. And so we do want to offer complimentary one-on-one sessions. We'll be going over how you can schedule these out at the end of the webinar, and as well as how you can get a hold of our strategic calendar that Eric was able to build for this particular campaign and use that towards other campaigns as well. So looking forward to getting into the details of this, but hopefully you'll walk away with all these things. And obviously we'll have time at the end of the webinar to go over any questions. Again, a reminder, if you can put those in the chat, Eric will be combing through those and being able to ask some with the time that we have left towards the end of the webinar itself.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. And so really, Giving Tuesday now, some of you guys have already kind of asked this. What is it and what opportunity does it really represent? And kind of the best way to really look at this is look at, using a reference, look at Giving Tuesday from 2019 and what the impact of that was. Eric, if you could just go to the next slide for me, please. So during Giving Tuesday of 2019, we raised, or not us personally, but online, we raised $511 million. And that's just online during Giving Tuesday of 2019. That is an absolutely immense sum of money that was being given out to nonprofits on a single day. And, with Giving Tuesday now, the goal here, the aim is to really just kind of try to recapture some of this magic and try to have a second Giving Tuesday. So some of our key learnings from Giving Tuesday of 2019, from some insights from over 150 different campaigns managed by us over here at Community Boost. It was successful, but we definitely saw some speed bumps that we would like to share with you guys and learn from. Overall, it was a huge success and amazing opportunities. The numbers have really spoken for themselves. The total amount donated was up 28% year over year. And the nonprofits that we worked with saw huge results. A coordinated day of giving like this is a massive opportunity, but it needs to be executed on correctly. And some of the reasons why it needs to be executed on so well is that this is Giving Tuesday was a day of fierce competition. We saw cost per clicks shoot way higher than normal, and that's because these kind of everybody who was on Facebook and Instagram ads was trying to get a piece of the pie, and Facebook and Instagram ads themselves were taking a lot longer to get approved. So many advertisers were using this platform, not only just nonprofit organizations, but some e-commerce stores, some CPG advertisers. It was overall just a day that everybody was trying to get a piece of some of that huge $511 million pie that we talked about that was given online. And ultimately, what we saw prevail here in this highly competitive online landscape for Giving Tuesday of 2019 was preparedness. The major difference between the organizations that we saw succeed and the ones that we saw fail was that those who succeeded were preparing. They were running campaigns beforehand. They were pre-wiring their audiences. They were getting creative with their creative, and they were building goodwill with both new donors and their existing donors prior to Giving Tuesday actually kicking off, rather than just throwing up ads on Giving Tuesday and saying, hey, please give to us. So as far as how Giving Tuesday now is going to be different from the Giving Tuesday that we're all used to, this is really an opportunity to stand out. Giving Tuesday now is a new thing. This is something that has just kind of come into existence in the last few weeks here. And as such, not everybody knows about it. It's not quite as widely understood or widely accepted as Giving Tuesday is. And what that really means is we're going to be seeing lower CPCs on certain channels. And overall, since the advent of the COVID-19 crisis, we've seen much lower CPCs on these channels in general, because people are just spending more time online, and we're definitely expecting that trend to continue on May 5th. There's also likely to be a lot less competition than on Giving Tuesday of 2019. Like I said, this is not as widely known about by both nonprofits and by the general public as Giving Tuesday is. Since Giving Tuesday is something that's been going on for a while, because this is a brand new thing, this is not something that we actually found a lot of our clients knew about until we brought it up to them. So when it comes to standing out through this, less competition, lower CPCs, tangible and transparent asks that speak to impact are really going to be what win the day. Donors, while they're going to be willing to give on this day, in these times, they demand intended outcomes and key impact metrics. A normal ask saying, hey, just please donate to us, isn't enough anymore. We want people to understand that if they are investing in us, that they are investing in an impact that's tangible.
All right, and so we wanted to highlight a little bit around the ask. I'm seeing in some of the chat some questions or commentary on the sensitivity of asking now, which I think is a good conversation to be having. But things to really note is that we've already seen very successful fundraiser campaigns since the COVID sort of change in the dynamic. So we are seeing that donors who can give do give because they know that the communities need the help. So, one way to really address this is to be nuanced but confident. A way to think about it is that every organization just needs to find their own light and stand in it. We know that in the online world, each organization has a target audience that we should be getting in front of. And so we want to make sure that we're confident in our ask. When we're talking about services that we're providing, when we're talking about impact on our immediate community, we want to make sure that we're very confident in saying we are prepared, we are ready, we are hopeful for when the doors open back up in our communities, and we want to be prepared to support now and in the future. So, really finding that light, standing in it, and being confident in that ask. Definitely, leading with a little bit of empathy and understanding so that we do come off as sensitive to the situation. We don't want to come off, again, this kind of goes with what Nico was saying, where we don't want to sound generic because then it sounds like capitalization on the situation. Whereas if we are nuanced and specifically stating very transparently what we're going to be doing, it's really a perfect time to ask because people are more captivated in front of their computers. And we need to get in front of these people now because we've seen that average increase of time online. And so this is not only an opportunity to fundraise, but we can give people things to do by maintaining the conversation and highlighting the impact on their own community and what matters most to the organization. So, getting in front of those people now to highlight that you still exist, the problems that you guys are solving still happen, and we still need to be fundraising in order to address them respectfully, leading with empathy, being transparent and nuanced, but moving on, but still making the ask as well. And so wanted to highlight in the next slide, this is some short-term, really successful fundraising that we've already seen. If you guys are a part of our digital marketing group for nonprofits on Facebook, which I would suggest if you're not, definitely head over there and join that group. It's a great place to have ongoing conversations about what people are doing. But we've seen really great responses. So this was the Tenement Museum. Obviously, doors are closed for the Tenement Museum. And so using the Google Ad Grants, which again, we have additional information on, or if people have questions about, we can answer, but continuing to drive quality visitors, to the site every day, over 180, and then helping them cultivate a really transparent, email here around the ask that they were going to do and launching the Facebook fundraiser. So things to note here is, obviously these numbers around email and fundraising are terrific. We've crossed the $100,000 mark overall for this campaign, but because people are more focused online, we are seeing a lot of these shares. So 349 fundraising shares is an incredible feat. 45 post shares, and then obviously the link clicks are huge as well. A nice thing to see is only $69 was spent in the actual ad spend in the promotion of this. So this all came with the proper messaging, the transparency, the willingness to ask, and being nuanced and confident in the outreach to their supporters. So what we're going to go over now is, switching to the actual 4 strategies we've identified as maximizing the May 5th campaign. So first and foremost, again, we've mentioned this already, but compelling, confident, and creative. Second, we're going to talk about timelines and how to start implementation early as possible. That goes along, again, if you stay till the end, we'll talk about how to get that calendar planning out this campaign. And then third, that's going to be the most in-depth of the channels that are available. So choosing the right channels for your organization and your message. And then the always important, next level stewardship. How are we leading with attitude to follow up this particular campaign.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. And I'm going to be talking through our first strategy, which is compelling, confident, creative. So when it comes to the creative that you're going to want to use on your May 5th campaigns, make sure that you're using creative that tells a story, that catches attention, and inspires action. Some of the best ways to do this, given the current state of things, and being sensitive to the current scenario that we're all in. Number one, be as specific as you can. The best performing campaigns that stand out are going to have one message that's concrete and specific. And ultimately ensuring that your campaign messaging is consistent across all channels. You don't want people who are receiving Facebook ads to be receiving something different in the creative front on email or on your homepage, anything like that. Make sure that no matter where people are looking, no matter where they are seeing your communication, they are receiving the same message, and ensure that message is a specific one. Second, be transparent. You really should be treating your supporters like family, especially right now when people are, times are tough, and people are wanting to ensure that if they're donating money, they are donating it to a good cause. Showing that transparency is going to build that trust when you need it the most. And donors really want to understand exactly where their hard-earned dollars are going. And third, stay mission focused. Your donors are your donors because they resonate with your mission. You want to stay true to this, but you also want to be, sensitive about how your mission is being affected by the current COVID crisis. There's definitely something to be said for sensitivity. We want to make sure that we aren't being tone deaf in how we advertise, but make sure that you're taking a stance that, kind of like Jason was saying earlier, is more along the lines of, hey, we know that there's a crisis going on, but the problems that we're trying to solve are still out there, and we need fundraising to do that. And one of the best ways that we can really wrap these 3 points up is into this fourth one, which is making your campaigns stand out by focusing on impact. Your donors are likely going to be getting bombarded with messages from the different organizations that they support or know of who are trying to fundraise. The absolute best way that you can stand out from others while being specific, being mission focused, and being transparent is just by focusing on your impact. Giving people hard numbers on, hey, this is where your money goes, this is what we do with it, and this is how your investment in us is equating to an impact, is going to be what really makes you stand out from the field.
All right, so moving into strategy 2. So obviously, this is a quick turnaround time because of May 5th coming up. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely feel the weeks flowing into each other very quickly since the transition. So we want to get this going as quickly as possible. So something to notice is that, this is just something that we keep in the back of our brains, is that, every failed campaign has good creative. What we don't have is enough donors. So what we really need to do is make sure that we're prepared and that we're following and sticking to our schedule and timelines to make sure we have the awareness. So first thing that we want to do, and this is one of my favorite quotes, is a goal without a plan is just a wish. So we want to pre-wire your audience. There were some talks in the chat around having current campaigns going. So we want to start to let those people know that this is happening. The first time that they hear about May 5th should not be May 4th. Beginning to inform that your most experienced fundraisers, as well as your newest followers, about the opportunity of what we'll be doing. So how do we do this? It may seem obvious, but as Nico mentioned, we don't want to have separate images, separate visuals, separate messaging across different channels. So we want to be very specific in our calls to action. What is our goal for the day of Giving Tuesday now? Are there any matches we can highlight? Is there a specific monetary goal that we're getting to? Is there an outcome that we're looking to pair this with? And making sure all that wording lines up with all the messaging that's sending out. And then the third piece that I want to highlight is early adopters. So, especially if you have campaigns going on, I'm sure that you have, we see early adopters as those most passionate volunteers, the people that, when they could come into the office, were coming into the office, always at the top of the list when that extra help is needed. These are the people that are our biggest advocates and can still do that while we're online. Also looking at some of our annual donors. So whether those are the largest donors or people that we know give consistently, these are people that know our mission and can say it by heart. And then our social media champions, so our micro influencers and things like that, where we can, learn and have them be advocates online, and they are the ones that can really spread the message for this upcoming May 5th quickly to their network and help us to get the message out of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how the maximum amount of giving on this day will make an impact to the community and the mission. So with early adopters, we want to recruit them now, making those phone calls, making those Zoom calls, now that we're all used to the platform itself, sending a personalized email, letting them know the details and the goals related to the May 5th campaign. Again, this is something where every organization is a little different. So if you are looking for ideas, we can always schedule out that one-on-one time to talk about your particular current campaign and how we could fold Giving Tuesday into that as well. But prepare the content for your early adopters as well. Things like email templates, sample posts that they can post on Facebook and Instagram, images that they can use, wording that best suits them best, and getting them prepped to send that to them. So, a calendar invite that tells them when to send that email out to their network or when to post that social media post, in preparation of the date. Those are all things that we want to utilize to help our early adopters be the most successful. These can be the people, again, they may have done a birthday fundraiser on Facebook for you. That's a perfect candidate for someone that you can now reach out to again. Say, this might not be where you can give again. And then, Eric, can you switch to the next slide, please? Is the conversion design element. So this is a great way to educate people on what Giving Tuesday Now is and how it's going to impact your organization. So it's especially beneficial when trying to achieve this single goal. It guides any visitors on your website to completing one specific action. So, for example, these are examples from last Tuesday, and we were impact. So it's starting to build awareness now, and using the on-site conversion design elements. The two examples, which are great because they're not intrusive and they don't block the content of your website, and it stays with the reader or the site visitor as they scroll. So if you have to be able now, that's a great combination of informing the site visitor and calling them to action. And then also, scroll boxes. So, being able to, have this larger amount of text and imagery along with, the content itself and the ability for people to take action. Looks like I'm getting a little bit of feedback that there might be some audio difficulties. Eric, you can message me if you can still hear me okay. But again, this is the conversion design piece, highlighting specifically educating website visitors as they go through and utilizing things like smart bars and scroll boxes to highlight what's going to be happening and give people something to do as they visit your site.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Yeah, you were breaking up there for a little bit. You may, while I go through this section, may want to try calling in. It sounds like your internet might be dropping just a little bit. But in any case, I am now going to go through strategy number 3, which is kind of going to be the meatiest of the strategies. This is going to be talking about choosing the right channels, and there are a myriad to choose from. In an ideal world, it would be great for you guys to be able to utilize all of these. But I understand that in today's world with limited time, limited resources, limited budget, it's not necessarily possible. to take action on all of these. Although I wish, if it is possible, I would highly recommend that you do. I would also like to say before I get into this section, I'm going to be doing a lot of talking. If I do start breaking up at any point, please don't hesitate to let me know in the chat. But without further ado, I will get into this. And the ones we're going to be talking about here specifically are email marketing, social media, organic social media marketing, Facebook and Instagram ads, conversion design, and peer-to-peer empowerment. So first of all, email marketing. This is probably one of the best ways that you have on hand to directly communicate with your supporters of all shapes and sizes. The critical thing here is that you segment and you are in understanding that you're communicating with different segments of your audience in a different way. You should be communicating with your donors in a different way than you're communicating with the people who sign up for the newsletter. You should also be communicating with your recurring donors, ideally different than your, one-time donors, the people who gave a year ago, that sort of thing. And even deeper, if possible, you should be communicating with your major donors, the people who have given, over $500 or whatever your organizational threshold is. You should be communicating with them differently than you communicate with the people who are giving lesser sums of money. So ultimately, I know this kind of does come down to how well you're able to segment and how well you're able to get your donor platform and whatever email platform you're on to communicate. But if possible, please try to segment your mail house and communicate with those people differently. Now, next thing about email marketing is that ultimately the subject line is what rules here. Um, Email marketing is only good if you're able to get somebody to actually open the email and read through it and ideally take action. And the only way to get somebody to open the email is with a powerful subject line. So what I would honestly recommend here is if you've been doing email marketing for a while before you send out any campaigns, I would recommend going back, taking a look, doing a little bit of analysis on what sort of subject lines have worked best for your audiences in the past, and taking some of those learnings and applying them to this Giving Tuesday Now campaign. Now, next thing that I'd like to talk through on the email is powerful imagery and video motivates. If you do have powerful imagery or video, you make sure you use it, especially for some of these initial emails that are really meant to be drumming up awareness and interest in the Giving Tuesday Now campaign. On the flip side of that, we would highly recommend testing the sending of text-only emails. You can see this one on the right from the Tenement Museum, which we kind of talked about a minute ago. These sort of emails work best when you're going for a more personal appeal. This is the sort of thing that should be coming from perhaps the executive director, a chairman of the board, whoever the face of your organization is. That's who we ideally want this email to be written of the voice in the voice of, signed by them, and it should really feel, ideally you're using some merge tags to bring in your subscribers and donors' first names. It should really feel like a personal appeal that people are receiving. And you should really make sure you couple that with a clear call to action. You can see in this tenement example, donate today is the clear and concise call to action. The vaguer your email is, the less likely it is to actually do what you want it to do. You want to make sure that when people read your email, they don't go, that was nice, but I'm not really sure what I was supposed to do. Make sure that they understand that the action you want them to take is to donate, to start a fundraiser, or whatever your major goal is here on the Giving Tuesday Now campaign. And finally, this is a definite question that I know a lot of you have been asking, so it's something that I'm really eager to talk about. In the case of what we're about to go through, which is, Giving Tuesday Now, don't hesitate to send more. And like I said earlier, I am the area of practice manager for our email offering. I tend to fall on the side of make sure that we're sending not sparsely, but giving people enough space to feel like they're not being spammed. I also tend to fall in the camp of make sure that we're always providing as much value as possible in our emails. And with this scenario, I think I'm actually going to go against those principles that I usually use and say that sending more is going to be the better bet here, mainly because people don't know about Giving Tuesday Now. In the nonprofit world, most of us are at this point pretty looped into what's going on. but the general public at large is not aware that there is another opportunity coming up for them to be involved in a global day of giving. You shouldn't be afraid to send a prep email a week before, a prep email a day before, letting people know, hey, this is coming up. This is what it is. This is how you can support us. A call to action email the day of, kind of like the one you're seeing on the right, asking people to donate. And arguably most importantly, something that Jason will cover in a little bit here, a thank you and perhaps half call to action email the day after saying, hey, thank you so much if you donated. If you didn't, you can still donate to us. You can still support the mission by donating here. And making sure that, even after that, we're sending emails to all donors saying, thank you so much for participating. We really, really appreciate it. This is what we were able to achieve thanks to your generous donations, and making them understand that the dollars they donated, the investment they made in your organization, is equating to an impact. And next, we're going to talk about social media marketing. So for social media marketing in today's day and age, Eric, it looks like the slides went to the right a little bit. There we go. Thank you. The volume is better than perfection. Post more. Make sure that you're amplifying the signal. Make sure that you are getting the word out there. Make sure that people are seeing your posts showing up on their feed. This is also kind of one of the things where with Facebook and Instagram, you are rewarded for posting consistently. You are rewarded for not just posting every now and then. And so if you are posting consistently, you're posting more, even if the content isn't completely perfect, you are going to be rewarded with having your post show up higher to people, and show up higher on their news feeds, and being, ultimately getting more reach and impressions. In the same turn as that, make sure that you're using memorable and relevant hashtags. Using that hashtag Giving Tuesday Now will be great. To make sure people know that you're kind of looped in, and if people are browsing that hashtag, they can see who's participating. Obviously, using your brand hashtags, and make sure that you're just in general applying a hashtag strategy that makes sense given your audience and given what your organization is all about. Something that Jason touched on a little bit earlier as well, don't be afraid to utilize micro-influencers to expand reach. If you have people within your circles, people who are following you on social and are involved in what you're doing, perhaps active donors or active volunteers, anything like that, don't be afraid to ask them to post about you and to post in favor of what you guys are doing. That way they can reach their networks who are likely interested in supporting as well, just because they are friends with or following these other people. So don't be afraid to utilize those people within your networks who have maybe not massive social followings. Obviously they do, that's awesome. But even the ones with smaller social followings can really make a difference in their own networks, and it can kind of cascade from there. Next, make sure you're using stories and going live. Eric, if you could go back for me. Make sure that you're using stories and going live both before and during. Stories are one of the most consumed pieces of media on Instagram nowadays, and going live, unless people have set it to, set their notification settings to manually, not see when people go live. If you go live, you're sending a notification directly to somebody's homepage on their phone saying, hey, we're going live, come see what we're doing. This also kind of ties into getting the audience involved and sharing your stories, tagging you. We want to make sure that people who are following you and participating feel like they are relevant, feel like they are not just somebody who's throwing something at, a digital account. Make sure that you're reposting stuff that's tagging you on your story, or if the content is good enough, repurposing that to be user-generated content. That's the ultimate goal here, that your followers and your networks are generating more content that you need to. But just make sure that your followers and supporters and everybody feels the love and feels like they are a part of what you guys are doing on social media. And next, we will move into some of the paid social advertising, Facebook and Instagram ads. The real best part of Facebook and Instagram advertising is the tremendous amount of hyper-targeting that we can do here. We would honestly suggest setting a budget for a campaign here and then tiering your audiences like so. Tier 1 being kind of that own audience, the people who are already following you, your current donors, the people who definitely are aware of you and know what you're doing, using about 50% of the budget for that. Tier 2 would be remarketing to people who have visited the site but not necessarily followers, and combining that with a friends of followers. So saying, okay, these people follow me, let's target their friends because their friends are also, somewhat likely to be involved in our mission if they're friends with somebody who's following us. We would recommend, putting 25% of the budget behind that. Finally, tier 3, the expansion audience, going after new donors, people who are mission aligned but don't necessarily know what don't necessarily know who you are or what it is that you're doing. We'd recommend using around 25% of the budget here. This is great for stacking lookalike audiences, taking maybe a lookalike of your donor list, and taking an interest audience and taking the time to build an interest audience that is hyper targeted. If you're an ocean conservation org, making sure that you're going after people who are interested in ocean conservation, but maybe even going a little bit deeper and saying people who are interested in certain ocean conservation movies, or certain environmental causes, or other organizations that are also doing the same thing that you guys are doing, or even tangential organizations and brands that are doing the same thing that you guys are doing and are involved in that ocean conservation space, hypothetically. Ultimately, the targeting here is really what sets Facebook and Instagram advertising apart. And let's make sure that we are utilizing that as much as possible when running these ads. The Facebook and Instagram advertising is also great for pre-wiring your audience. You really want to make sure that you are taking the time prior to Giving Tuesday Now to let people know that this is coming up, showing up where their attention is, which is right now on Facebook and Instagram, and prepping them with an overall an awareness campaign saying, hey, this is coming up. This is what we're doing. As a reminder, this is what we've achieved in the last year. This is what our impact is. This is why it makes a difference to donate to us. Next is going to be remarketing opportunity. We really want to make sure that we're staying top of mind to those people who are also, going to the site organically, receiving your email and social media marketing. We want to make sure that Eric, the slide went to the right again. Thank you very much. We want to make sure that we are showing up to the people who are, visiting our other channels, and ultimately make sure that we're getting those multiple touch points with the potential donors who are potentially, going to be supporting us. Facebook and Instagram is also a great way to engage new audiences. As we've kind of talked about, attention is online now more than ever. People are spending way more time on social media, on the internet in general. So now there's no better time to get your ads out there and to engage new audiences using those interest and lookalike capabilities that Facebook has that we talked about. So just a note here too, video creative is really what wins the day. We want to make sure that if you guys have any great, powerful video talking about your mission or highlighting a campaign that you did, or talking about the great work that you've done in the last year, now is the time to put that video out in front on display for everybody to see. This kind of plays into the next point too, which is taking advantage of additional viral effect. I know that we kind of looked back earlier, and at that Tenement case study that we talked about, there was tons of fundraising shares and post shares. If you create high quality creative using some of the principles that we laid out first in strategy number 1, you can really stack that with good targeting to hopefully create an ad that is so shareable that people start sharing it, and it really gets out into the ecosystem almost as its own being, less as an ad and more as a post that people are sharing because they want to get their message across. They want to get their they want their followers to understand that they are also invested in your mission. And at that point, it's almost like free advertising. So make sure that you're taking advantage of that as much as you can. And a final note on paid Facebook and Instagram ads, 3x to 10x return on ad spend is very possible if you do it right. If you are using the targeting, if you're pre-wiring people, if you're using remarketing, and if you're using good creative, it is very, very possible to see an incredibly healthy return on ad spend from Facebook and Instagram ads. So don't be afraid of these platforms. Really just make sure that if you are investing in Facebook and Instagram ad buys, that you are adhering to some of the strategies that we've laid out beforehand, because that is what will really take you from, oh, this was an okay campaign, to, wow, we really blew this out of the water. So next, we're going to talk about on-site conversion design. Jason did talk about this a little bit. Really what we want to make sure that we're doing here is pre-wiring our on-site awareness on-site organic traffic. And Eric, the screen moved to the right. If you could go back, awesome, thank you. If we could we want to make sure that we're pre-wiring organic traffic with an awareness element, setting up the people who are just showing up to the site to say, hey, we know that this is coming up. Make sure that you're paying attention, make sure you're giving to us on May 5th. On the day of itself, we want to make sure that we're converting on-site traffic with an element that says, hey, today is Giving Tuesday now. Let's make sure that, please go ahead and click here to donate. This is how you can support. And finally, with conversion design, as we've kind of talked about, make sure that we're maintaining program consistency. Let's instill trust and legitimacy in our marketing campaigns by having a unified campaign across Facebook, email, on-site conversion design, and just making sure that no matter what, people are receiving the same message. So finally, for peer-to-peer engagement, we've already touched on this a little bit, but there is now really no better time to mobilize your core supporters to text, email, call, share on social. The easiest way that you can do this is by enabling your core supporters, once you have identified them, to really easily take action. Create templates, create text templates for them to send to their friends, create post templates for them to post, create emails for them to send out. You really want to ultimately enable your core supporters to utilize their networks. And the best way to do that is to make it easy for them. We would honestly strongly consider creating a core supporter Facebook group where you can kind of get in there and directly address everyone saying, hey, we know that you guys are our core supporters, you're our monthly donors, you're our volunteers. We really need you now more than ever to blow up your networks and ask for donations to our cause. This kind of plays into pre-wiring those key donors, letting them know that, hey, this is coming up. Don't forget to donate if you weren't already planning on it. And really, this can kind of be wrapped up by saying the offline game is important here too. When it comes down to it, digital is a fantastic way to get your message out there in front of new and existing donors. But it's that offline game, that donor stewardship, that one-to-one personal connection that is really going to drive, donations and just the overall viral effect of your campaigns. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Jason, who's going to handle our final strategy here, which is next level stewardship.
All right. Thanks, Nico. And I've adjusted my location, so hopefully the sound is a little better. Let me know in the chat if anyone can't hear me. Quick reminder, I believe some of the questions have been answered while we've been going through this, but definitely if you have additional questions, please throw them in the chat so that Eric can view those, as well as we will be setting up, if people are wanting it, some one-on-one opportunities to go specifically through what your organizations are tackling and what campaigns you have going on. But wanted to get into, stewardship. So this is probably, from my time in the trenches fundraising, this is one of the things I enjoyed most. But the ability to lead with gratitude. So creating a more personal email coming possibly directly from the executive team, that can have a lot of weight with donors when they know that they're hearing from the very top of the organization how much the organization appreciates what's been done, especially in something as quick as the turnaround time for Giving Tuesday Now. Also, things like phone messages and a signed thank you card for the top fundraisers or donors. Personal experience. The first fundraiser I ever did was for an organization out of Colorado, and I received a voicemail from the vice president of development, and I saved that for years until I had to get a new phone. But it's really something that can make a mark on people to know that there's that human connection. Another option is, highlighting on social media the top fundraisers. So thanking them, having quick video. As Nico mentioned, video is king right now. People are watching more and more of it. So quick videos that show, iPhone thank yous, or coming from the staff in the different home offices that everyone has had set up. We've seen so many videos now of people, contacting from their homes, and everyone is on that same page and engaging in that same way. Highlighting the impact. So a lot of the organizations we talk to, and I'm sure your organizations have those personal stories, those testimonials of how the organization has positively impacted individuals, local businesses, communities. So we want to highlight those as far as what was done on Giving Tuesday now and how the donations can go on to continue that mission. Obviously, infographics or short videos to complete that donor journey. We take people on from education all the way through support, through this stewardship. We want to give them the pieces to let them know what's happened and complete that story. And then a big thing right now is giving people something to do. So actionable follow-up. It might be to share some of the videos that you guys have created. It might be to share the highlighted outcomes of the organization itself and the day of. But one thing to think about is these new donors or these first-time donors are really our key to becoming monthly donors. So making sure that after we leave with gratitude and give them a solid thank you for donating on Giving Tuesday now, are we then putting them in the funnel to become future monthly donors? Because we've seen time and time again that the lifetime value of recurring donations is huge. And, it really builds this predictability for your fundraising and for the organization that, again, allows us to go all the way back to the beginning, letting people know that this recurring donation will allow the organization to stay confident in the support that they are able to give the communities and the individuals that they're helping, which is why, a monthly donation of $20 is so valuable ongoing. And, timing wise, this is a great primer where we're engaging them in May, and then we can, thank them and continue to cultivate. And as we go into end of the year giving, which is something, people are starting to think about in July, that is something that we can then move these people into those end of the year givers and those monthly recurring supporters at that point, and inviting them to join your community. So letting them know that now that they've given or now that they've engaged, they are a part of the community that is doing all this positivity. So definitely, continuing this stewardship along the journey as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Stewardship is super, super important. And it's just ultimately important, that we continue to maintain the relationships that we build with these people after the fact and make sure that they understand that they have our gratitude. But anyway, I'm going to now jump into just a really quick recap. And then finally, we are going to jump into the Q&A, and we'll have about 15 minutes left for that. So ultimately, Giving Tuesday now is an incredibly promising opportunity. It is a really great thing that the team over at Giving Tuesday is doing, giving an opportunity to fundraise during these trying times, giving donors an opportunity to be involved in another international, worldwide day of giving. But we want to make sure that we are intentional, we have a plan, and we execute in the channels that matter. And if we do that, then I can, confidently say that the day will be a success. So really, just remember our 4 strategies to manage your nonprofit during this economic downturn and during this COVID crisis: compelling, confident, creative, starting implementation early, choosing the right channels, and next level stewardship. And once again, when this whole thing is over, let's not forget to celebrate the wins. This is a time when we need to be celebrating every win that we can. And I do think that Giving Tuesday now is going to be a pretty big win for a lot of organizations out there. So don't forget to have a little fun with it as well.
Cool. And obviously, our mission is to help the great causes that, are not only on this webinar, but all the ones that we've gotten to work with in 2019 and we want to continue to work with. So we do want to make available these one-on-one sessions. So obviously communityboost.org/let's-talk is a great way to get that scheduled out so that we could learn more about your organization individually and what strategies we would suggest. Also, appreciate all of those who have stayed through the end of the webinar, but definitely contact us to get the campaign calendar. There was a question on the chat I saw earlier about, when should people first be hearing about this? This calendar is a great way to reverse engineer that timeline. So definitely reach out to engage in that content as well. I believe that's all, but we will pass over to Eric to sift through any of the questions that he wants us to answer. and definitely appreciate people so far.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Jason and Nico, so much. There was a lot of value in there. And I'm sure all of our attendees really enjoyed all that information. So just from the questions, I think one really good one that just came in from Sharon about creating a community. And you asked, are you suggesting a separate private Facebook page? We're an animal rescue and have followers from odd places all over the world on our open Facebook page who are not donors. So should we have two pages? Do either of you guys want to take that?
I can take this one. I Oh, can you guys hear me okay? Yep. Okay, cool. Sharon, that's exactly what we would recommend. Creating a separate private Facebook page. But really, make sure that when you're creating that page, this is not just another page for people who are, maybe following you or anything like that. This is the core supporters Facebook group, and I would honestly make it as a group and like kind of invite people to join if they would like. But you want to make sure that the people in this group are the ones that are invested and would be probably okay with being a part of another group where they can be communicated with more directly. Oh, you reserve this second Facebook group that's private for only the members of your community that um, are really invested in the mission. So yes, we would recommend doing that. Just make sure that you are intentional with how you create it and who you're putting within it.
Awesome. And there are a couple questions about the specific need. It seems like you guys are all thinking about this, and we definitely are too. How would you guys think about avoiding donor fatigue when we're continuing to ask during these trying times? I know we talked about it a little bit during the webinar, but
Yeah, Nico, I think Nico mentioned this in that, like, this is almost a time. Normally, we would say, we don't want to bombard people with email communication and things like that. I think a big key to it is making sure the different departments are communicating with each other. We talked about this in our video on, preparing for 2020, much before any of the COVID, but making sure that they're not getting different messages from different departments, and that things are, across all the platforms, the same message. So that way it all makes sense. But I think concern would be, if development is doing one ask and marketing is doing a separate ask, then we are going to hit some of those fatigues. So making sure using something like the calendar to streamline when things are going out across all departments can really help avoid that donor fatigue, and also making it a little more personalized. I think that is a good key, especially for some of those early adopters, because they have given to you in the past. So you want to make sure in this litany of email and outreach that they will be getting, you stand out for them. I don't know, Nico, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think one thing too is that's all great information, and that is a great way to kind of go about it. I think one thing to add too is that if you're in the position where you're like, geez, we need to fundraise, we need donations right now, but we also we want to avoid donor fatigue. Maybe we've already been asking a bunch. Um, it kind of like what we talked about, people appreciate transparency. And I know that people really appreciate authenticity. And I think that you can even kind of address that. If you're sending an email to, say, your donors or a group that is kind of already invested, but you have asked before and you want to avoid that fatigue. In one group that I think does this really well, honestly, is the Wikimedia Foundation, who manages Wikipedia. I will get emails from them saying basically, hey, we know this is inconvenient. We know that we have asked you in the past and we apologize. We promise we wouldn't be doing this unless we didn't think it was necessary. Like this is, and then they go into their pitch from there. And I'm not going to lie, those emails have gotten me personally like 9 or 10 times. So I do think that there is a balance of obviously, making sure that you're streamlining your campaign, um, and ensuring that your messaging is consistent. But also, if it comes down to it, don't be afraid to be vulnerable, and don't be afraid to be authentic with, hey, we understand that this is maybe not what you guys want to be receiving, but the truth is, we need your help now more than ever.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. It's a great point, Nico. Moving on, Sarah, you asked, do you recommend doing Facebook donate button fundraisers for Giving Tuesday? Since we don't get the donors' information, I feel like this defeats the purpose. What are your thoughts on this? I can actually go ahead and take this one. Having a lot of experience with Facebook donate fundraisers, and with what we've talked about in the webinar with our tenement case study and Facebook as a fundraising tool, the main pro here is the virality that you can get from Facebook, especially with fundraisers and having your key supporters and your early adopters share with their networks. It's okay that you don't get the donor specific emails, but you do have the ability to retarget people who have interacted with fundraisers and who have donated to fundraisers in the Facebook platform with advertisement. And then eventually, if they care about your organization enough to donate during times like these, then I think it's fair to say that you'll eventually get their information when they join your communities.
That's a great point, Eric. Thank you for bringing that up. I think it's also too, when it comes down to it, having the information is fantastic and we want it. But if you need donations, then you need donations, and if the fundraiser can do that, then that's a good option. I'd like to answer a question that Ashley just posed about potentially needing to sit out Giving Tuesday now. Even though, she loves Giving Tuesday days and they just raised 280K plus. That's awesome. Great work. I totally hear you on it being hard to make the right calls here. This is very uncharted territory for pretty much everybody. I do think, I come from the world of, if we think it's possible to get something, to go for it. I think that, feeling it's going to fall flat I think it's a feeling. And I do think that given what's going on in the world right now, and given what's going on with Giving Tuesday now and it not being as blown up as Giving Tuesday is regularly, I do think that there is an opportunity here. And I think depending on what you do, it is an opportunity to kind of address some of that vulnerability that I just kind of talked about. And, I know you say you have a match and we're only 2 weeks out, but you haven't really marketed it. While time is getting a little bit tight, it's certainly, if you start now, if you really, hit the gas, I think that it is very, very reasonable to get a campaign that won't fall flat up and running within the next couple weeks. It will be a push. It'll be a big lift. I'm not going to lie to you. But I do think that it will be worth it if you think that your donors would be willing to give more, and you can even address them by saying, in that more one-to-one communication, saying, hey, I know we just raised a whole bunch of money and I know we just asked you for a lot, but we are looking to see if you'd be interested in contributing again for this Global Day of Giving. We'd really appreciate if you were a part of it. Every dollar counts nowadays. We really, really would appreciate your support in these times. Ultimately going to be your call. Your donor base a whole heck of a lot better than I do. But that is just my personal take on that.
Yeah, that's a great take. I definitely agree with you on that, Nico. Moving on, we got a question from Marcia Pros, and you said, are you diluting your Giving Tuesday now ask by having Facebook donate buttons on multiple posts? Do either of you guys want to take this? Maybe talk a little bit about, the cross-channel consistency of your message and asking.
Yeah, I think that, and just so I'm clear, are we talking about the Facebook donate button, or are we talking about just using the donate call to action on our Facebook ads? Diluting the message. I would say, when it comes to diluting the message, you can test different calls to action and see what performs better. I would recommend, if you're running a campaign like this, by kind of opening it up with a more awareness phase of ads, where you're kind of initially saying, hey, this is what's going on, just a reminder, like, to learn more, this is what Giving Tuesday now is, this is how it could affect our organization, these are our goals. and having the call to action being learn more. But then when it comes down to it, in the week or so leading up to Giving Tuesday and the couple days after, I would recommend you go with that strong ask and maintain a really consistent ask across all your campaigns. So you can dilute in the beginning by, viewing that as an awareness campaign and saying, hey, we don't necessarily want you to give right now. We just want you to understand what's going on, and we want you to understand that we'd like you to be a part of it. But I would recommend against diluting, not going for the big ask when it counts. So that's kind of my take. I think when you're asking, you should be asking. And when you're just trying to drive awareness, you should just be doing that. So dividing your campaign up into different, awareness and ask phases would be the best bet. And I do think that, getting that calendar that we're offering would probably help you to kind of decide, okay, when should we transition from an awareness phase to an ask phase? But that's a great question. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And that definitely, when you're thinking about segmenting, your awareness phase and ask phase, that comes into, the principle start early. Because that's just a key here, is starting early, pre-wiring your audiences with awareness, and then you can come in strong with the strong ask.
I have 2 quick questions that I'd like to address just real quick, if that's all right, Eric.
Yeah, let me just jump in really quickly. Eliza asked, can you please clarify when and where you're offering the calendar? If you guys just go to our website and fill out the Let's Talk form, and then you just put in the comments that you came from the webinar and you'd like the calendar, we'll send it over right away. So go ahead, Nico.
Yes, awesome. I actually am addressing a question from Eliza as well, saying, I've struggled with how to thank certain Facebook donors when I do not have their contact information. That is a really great point, Eliza, and it is kind of tough to thank those people when you don't have their contact information. If it is people just donating through Facebook, I would honestly recommend what you do, and we've seen this work really well before in the past for kind of maintaining that stewardship and keeping everything going, is just creating an organic post on Facebook, thanking the audience, and then boosting that post to a audience of people that donated or were invested and interested, putting just a little bit of ad spend behind a gratitude campaign. It is really refreshing to see those ads come through and people are like, oh, they're just thanking me for being a part of this. So that's something I would recommend. It's not a perfect solution because you're not 100% certain that you're getting to those people who donated on Facebook, but a little gratitude is better than no gratitude. And then quickly, Catherine, we are continuing investing in Facebook ads, but what about Instagram? How effective are they? It really is just going to depend on your audience. If your audience, I would strongly recommend taking a deeper dive into your site analytics and seeing what portion of your traffic is mobile, how people are engaging with you on mobile, and going from there. Overall, Eric, feel free to correct me on this, but I do think that Instagram ads are pretty effective. It really just kind of depends on who your audience is and how they tend to interact with you.
Mm-hmm. And you can see all of that data when you're running ads. You can see, who's converting better on Instagram or Facebook or different placements, etc. All right, guys, unfortunately we're out of time. Really enjoyed having all of you guys here. Again, if you want the campaign calendar, if you could just fill out the Let's Talk form on our website, and we'll reach out and send that to you right away.
Jennifer, make sure that you go to our Let's Talk form and fill it out there. We won't be able to send it to you just from an email in the chat, unfortunately. Thank you. Beautiful.
And then again, we're offering those one-on-one strategy sessions. We really want to get into the weeds on, detailed strategies so everyone can make the most of this day, and really so your communities can get the most value and impact out of this day, because that's what's really important here. So definitely think about scheduling those, and then follow us on social. And if you have more questions that you think we might be able to answer, or that other nonprofit professionals might be able to help with, or if you have any insights about fundraising on this day or in general, definitely think about joining our Facebook group. It's just a great community with a bunch of other nonprofit professionals, and it's a great opportunity to share insights and to get some questions answered. But I want to thank you guys a lot. This has been a great webinar. We'll be sending over a recording to all of you after this in an email. And have a great Giving Tuesday now, and thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it.